In a statement titled, FD urges religious leaders to eschew message of disharmony, the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, yesterday warned religious leaders in the country to refrain from stoking the embers of hatred and disunity, which could trigger unintended consequences.
Well, Bishop Kukah, in his 2020 Christmas message the day before, accused the president of nepotism, stating that every honest Nigerian knows there's no way any non-Northern Muslim president could have done a fraction of what President Muhammadu Buhari has done and gotten away with without a military coup or war. Some agree with the clergy's statement, while others did not. Well, joining us now to speak on where freedom of speech ends and hate speech begins is journalist and publisher of Complete News, Eni Olukotun. Thank you for joining us, Eni. If we were to jump straight into it, and if you were to have to pick a side, what would you say? Would you agree that that was hate speech, or would you say it wasn't?
What happened is that the position of Reverend Mathew Kukah, you can't actually tag that hate speech, because if you observe very well, there is a calculated attempt by those, in power, to stiffen what we call plurality of opinions, to stiffen what we call free speech. So if anybody makes any, comment or statement that doesn't sit well with the government, that does not categorically or automatically turn it, to hate speech. What are the issues that the, Reverend Kukah actually stated, in that statement that you could target hate speech? He never called on anybody to actually, take over power through the barrels of gun. He didn't call for forceful regime change. All he said was that based on the things we have seen, and all these things are glaring. So if someone is actually stating the facts, if someone is a thief and you call him a thief, it is not a speech. If things are not going the way they should and people are bold enough to speak up, you can actually tag that a speech. And if you look at the preambles of that statement yesterday, he said a lot of things about the precarious state of Nigerian economy. He talks about the bloodletting, massive bloodletting that we are presently witnessing in the country. He talked about the banditry that has become everyday experience in Nigeria. He talks again about kidnapping. He talks about a lot of things, about the plight of every, common Nigerians, and the whole thing is open to everybody. So you and I should look and tell ourselves the basic truth. Are we better, than we are? Are we better in terms of our, our economic condition or our state generally as a nation? You can't travel from here by road to Abuja without getting concerned that something might happen on the road. So those are the things that, Reverend Kukah actually stated. And I don't think he said anything out of order. These are facts. These are things that are in the public domain. So if anybody is saying certain things that are factual, it is not a speech. So, and again, I think Honorable Minister, Mr. Lai Mohammed, should help this government a bit. There are certain things that you don't actually say. You don't provoke people the more, by putting certain clauses in your statement that you are warning that people should refrain from. Are you saying people should not talk?
You're right.
When people are going through hard times, should they keep quiet and die in silence? So if you are talking about the alleged nepotistic tendency of the present regime, everything speaks, for itself. You can see it as well. Presently, people are complaining about the lopsided kind of, patronage that we have within the system. The people of the South has never had it this bad. That is the truth. And if you are talking about you building or strengthening the fabric of the various ethnic fabrics that we have in this country, you must give what is due, to every region so that we can have social harmony. within the system and all that. And that is exactly what Reverend Kukah actually speaks to. I don't think anything in that statement, could be seen as hate speech or trying to instigate people, against the government, or probably displaying, according to Mr. Lai Mohammed, displaying hatred, towards the government and all that. I don't think there is anything, of such in that statement that I read.
So as we've seen in this government, this government kicks anytime there's this type of criticism, right? And, it's tagged as hate speech. At this point, many are even asking if we're still in a democratic nation where freedom of speech is enshrined in our constitution. Now, how does criticism translate to hate speech? In your opinion, what is the thin line between hate speech and free speech?
So if you look at it, generally, if someone is, operating within the corridor of hate speech, you can see certain attributes. Someone might set out deliberately to spew false narratives, to instigate, hatred against, people of certain religion or ethnic and other. So that is a clear case of hate speech. But if someone is coming out to say, look, these and these are the things that are happening. People are being killed, by the day. And the preponderance of people that are being killed are from these segments of the country, or they belong to these particular faiths. And there are empirical evidence based on the media reports, based on, based on research, academic research, to actually attest to the fact that what is said is true. That is not hate speech. That is free speech. You understand? And definitely there must be pluralism of opinion. People must be free, to express their opinion without let and hindrance, without, trying to teleguide or trying to, put people in certain mode of your own preference. That is not how democracy, grow. If you want democracy to grow and survive, you must allow people to actually, express their opinion and say things the way they are. As a matter of fact, as a government, you need that feedback. That feedback is actually imperative for you to go back and look at things what are people talking about? For instance, you close border. You said you want to encourage, local rice production and all that. And with all the incentive, the anchor borrower scheme of your Apex Bank, CBN, they gave a lot of money to rice growers. And instead of us, having sufficiency in rice, production locally, what we are experiencing is high cost of rice. That rice, was being sold about a few months ago. I learned it has started coming down for 30,000 naira, and your minimum wage is 30,000 naira. So if anybody comes out and condemn, such a policy, that is not a speech. That is free speech. That is fair speech. So they should look at all these things. And definitely because of the feedbacks they have been getting, I think they have already reviewed that policy that way. This thing is not working. You shot according to them, they told us they closed the borders. And the feelers we are getting in the media, and especially from some of our colleagues, journalist colleagues in the north, that some of the borders in the north are opened. So till today, they have not been able to refute that satisfactorily. We are not talking about knee-jerk statements coming from, government spokespersons and all that. You have not been able to satisfactorily tell the people that, their welfare really matters. So look at what people went through during the EndSARS and what have you. And if you look at it, we are gradually returning back to the status quo. You promised the young people to leave the street, that there will be reforms in the, in the security forces and all that, that you will look into the plight of the young people. So can you say for a fact that the government between October and now has done anything meaningful, to actually build that confidence in the populace and the citizenry that truly we are really working for you, truly, we are concerned about your agitation and plight. That is exactly what people are talking about. And if you see people like Reverend Kukah coming out, to speak up and to say things the way they are and speak truth to power, it is not the business of Mr. Lai Mohammed to tell him the mode and the structure or the format his criticism should go. It is not his own business. Mr. Kukah is not working for the presidency. So I may be taken aback if you look at what is going on within the system. Let the truth be told. People are not happy. That is the truth. So people are living in daily apprehension. People are concerned about, about their safety. But in terms of livelihood, everything has gone haywire, and people are complaining and people are speaking out. You are tagging that hate speech. That is not hate speech.
Right. I think this is obviously a fiercely contested issue. It's time for us to take a very short break, and when we come back, we will continue this discussion. Please do stay with us. Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. We're still joined by Eni Olukotun, who's been here talking to us about the blowback after Bishop Kukah's comments a few days ago. It does seem as though you've been fiercely defending the bishop, saying that what the comments that he did make fall under the umbrella of free speech, and that these were criticisms and they should be treated as such. But in amongst those criticisms of the economy, border closures, and the objective negative effect that that's had on Nigerians, there are also some subjective accusations he made towards the president. He did say that President Buhari, this is a direct quote, President Buhari deliberately sacrificed the dreams of those who voted for him for what seemed like a program to stratify and institutionalize northern hegemony by reducing others in public life to second-class citizens. I mean, that's no longer an opinion. Well, I guess that is an opinion, but it's also an accusation in the fact accusing the president and the presidency of killing people in the interest of northern people. Do you not see how that can be construed as hate speech? And
if you look at that very well, you have to look at it in context. So what Reverend Mathew Kukah said, I don't see that as hate speech, because if you look at the fact speaks, for itself as far as this issue is concerned. So he said the interest, that is the nepotistic tendency that I alluded to earlier enough. So if you look at the recruitment, for instance, there is a growing hunger in the rank and file of the police force following the recent promotion they did in the Nigerian police force, that the outcome favored the north substantially more than the south, especially people from the southeast. So if you look at it again, look at the infrastructure. So this government talked about constructing a railway from Katsina all the way to Niger Republic. So the question you will ask me is that what is the economic, the times of trade volume that we have compared to, let's say, Benin Republic, Cotonou and Lagos corridor, and Kano, Katsina and Niger corridor. So the fact is very clear. So when people are complaining, look at a lot of people that have been sacked, head of agencies and all that, especially people from the southwest too. You recall that there was a change of baton at FIRS. The man that was there before was a Yoruba man, someone from the south, replaced by someone, you can look at all these things and they don't want us to talk about it. But these are facts. People will feel somehow, when certain replacements are heavily in favor of the north. So, and that is exactly what, Reverend Kukah said. In that particular regard, I don't think it's a speech. And if I say something and if I can back it up with facts, I just stated one or two facts now about recruitment, about appointment, about, development in terms of siting of infrastructure and all that. And if you recall, and the presidency is yet to refute this. Anyway, let me state it. If you recall, President Muhammadu Buhari was reported to have instructed World Bank to concentrate more of his projects in the north. Till today, we have not had any meaningful rebuttal from the presidency. So if you look at all this background, all these things that I've said, what Mr. Kukah said is obviously not out of place. Things, if you look at it, is very clear. And he said it again, that even if you look at it, the north itself has become a killing field. People are being killed by the day and another. So they are now questioning themselves. If you look at the statement very well, it says something about the plight of the Almajiri. The Almajiri system they have within this, within the north. It tells a lot of things about the way their emirs and their leaders are being killed and maimed by the day. So if you let's look at the balance. He is not, saying anything that is out of place. What he has said is fact and nothing but the fact.
Okay, if we were to shift gears now, last week Lai Mohammed has said that citizens should be grateful for having Buhari as a president of Nigeria because no government in the history of Nigeria has implemented programs like alleviating poverty among women, vulnerable groups, as well as created jobs for the youth. I'd like your assessment on this comment. And should Nigerians be grateful?
It's very well. You can see the way I was smiling. It's quite hilarious. It's hilarious in the sense that if you are a good father, you don't need to tip your child to appreciate you if you are doing well. A good child, a good father will always get appreciation for the child. When the father comes around, the child will be happy to welcome him and all that. So if you are saying people are not appreciative of the efforts, of this government and all that, it's quite hilarious. Tell me the effort so far. You see, when people, if you write an exam, you don't fail for scoring 0. If you score 20 all over 100, you are still within the failure territory. So nobody will commend you. So if you look at the baby steps that this government is making in terms of infrastructure here and there, that the whole thing is even laughable. In terms of, because you told us that you have plucked a lot of votes, you have more money in the kitty, that the corruption has been reduced to barest minimum, you have free up funds for development and all that. And we can still see the state of our roads. If you go to public hospitals, especially the tertiary, public hospitals in Nigeria, they are not telling me what has happened significantly. What improvement can you point to in the health sector that Mr. Lai Mohammed said we should be appreciative of the government for? Tell me, is it the high cost of living? Is it the present squalor that preponderance of our people are subjected to, that Mr. Lai Mohammed wants us to be grateful for? Is it the present killings of people every now and then that Mr. Lai Mohammed wants us to be grateful for? Is it daily experience of kidnapping on the highway, at home, in the market, everywhere, that Mr. Lai Mohammed wants us to be grateful for? Is it massive youth unemployment that we have within the system that Mr. Lai Mohammed want the youth to be happy for? So tell me, if you have done nothing, virtually nothing, if I say virtually nothing, I mean virtually nothing in terms of the kind of expectations that you built when coming to power in 2015. Some of us actually campaigned and our hopes were raised in 2015 that there will be remarkable departure, from the norms and from what has always been in the past. But unfortunately, it appears as if the things are getting worse and worse by the day, because there are certain criteria that you are going to use to measure, if you are making progress, even as human being. So, for instance, if by 5 years ago you are living in a room apartment, and after 10 years after you are still there, but personally you won't think you are making progress. So tell me what has really changed. Is it in terms of, let's even talk about the 3 things they promised to address if they assume office. They talk about insecurity. Can you tell me today that the state of security in Nigeria has improved significantly? So Mr. Lai Mohammed had told us to be grateful to the government, was the same man that said Boko Haram has been greatly degraded. So the Boko Haram that they have cut off his head is still busy slaughtering people in their farms. And the spokesperson of the presidency, the only thing he could say was that the farmer could have gotten approvals, could have gotten clearance before going to their farms. So in the days of Jonathan, people were not getting clearance to go to farms, and they were not being slaughtered.
I'm so sorry to have to interrupt you there. It's definitely been quite an emotional conversation with you today.
Thank you so much.